The first panic attack is an overwhelming experience, an internal earthquake that shakes the foundations of our perception of safety and control. The confusion and sheer terror it instills is rarely spoken about openly, and it is precisely this gap that we seek to fill. It's not just about describing symptoms, listing a racing heartbeat, or the sensation of shortness of breath. It's about delving into the subjective and visceral experience, the way it instantly redefines reality for those experiencing it. Imagine being in a familiar place, feeling relatively safe, and suddenly being assaulted by a wave of panic so intense that the world around you seems to distort. Your senses become suffocatingly heightened, and an irrational fear that something terrible is about to happen, death, madness, a total loss of control, seizes with unrelenting force. This is the essence of the first panic attack, an event that for many marks a turning point in how they navigate life. Most traditional narratives focus on clinical aspects, diagnoses and treatments, which is undoubtedly important. However, what is often overlooked is the profound disorientation that accompanies this first manifestation. It is an attack that arrives without warning, without an obvious trigger that the mind can immediately rationalize. This lack of a clear explanation intensifies fear, as the mind, in its relentless search for logic and order, encounters an inexplicable internal chaos. The question why echoes incessantly without satisfactory answers, fueling a cycle of anxiety and apprehension. The feeling of loss of control is perhaps the most terrifying component. Suddenly, the body and mind seem to act independently, betraying the person with extreme physical sensations and dark thoughts. This disconnect between the perceived self and the bodily manifestations is deeply disturbing, generating anguish and a paralyzing fear that this terrifying experience could repeat itself at any time, anywhere. What no one tells you is the silence that often sets in after the first attack. Not a literal silence, but the silence of incomprehension, the hesitation to share the magnitude of what happened for fear of not being believed, judged, or labeled. There's an inherent loneliness to this initial experience, a feeling of going through something others simply can't understand, even if they try. Those around you may offer general comfort, but the depth of the internal abyss experienced during the attack often remains unexplored by those who haven't been through something similar. This communication barrier can lead to isolation, as the person may begin to avoid situations they fear will trigger another episode, limiting their life in subtle but significant ways, even before they understand the nature of what they're experiencing. Our journey here is not to offer ready-made solutions or superficially demystify symptoms. Instead, our goal is to shed light on the nuances of the first-time panic attack experience, addressing the emotional and psychological landscape it creates. We will explore the initial disbelief, the desperate search for answers, the fear that infiltrates daily routines, and the feeling of being in unknown and dangerous territory within oneself. Understanding these aspects is the first step in disarming the power that panic wields. It is an invitation to brave the terrain of vulnerability, recognize the strength that lies in acceptance, and gradually begin to rebuild a sense of safety, not by denying fear, but by understanding and integrating it. The path forward is not about eliminating fear, but about learning to coexist with it, transforming the experience of a terrifying event into a catalyst for self-knowledge and resilience. What many fail to realize about this initial event is the subtle yet profound impact it has on the perception of temporality and future anticipation. Suddenly, the future becomes a nebulous territory rife with potential pitfalls. The anticipation of a new attack can eclipse the experience of the present, generating a constant state of vigilance. Every small, unusual bodily sensation, a slight palpitations, a twinge in the chest, a fleeting dizziness, can be interpreted as a harbinger of impending disaster. This hypervigilance, while understandable as a self-protective mechanism, paradoxically amplifies anxiety and the likelihood of experiencing further crises. The mind, focused on preventing a traumatic event, ends up creating the very emotional, trigger it, so fears. It's like an alarm that beeps at every sound, losing its ability to warn of real danger and turning life into a constant listening for non-existent threat, but internally felt with vivid realism. Furthermore, the unspoken social consequences are rarely discussed. After the first attack, a reluctance to participate in social activities or frequent places that were once routine may arise. The fear of having another attack in public, of being the center of unwanted attention, or of appearing insane can lead to isolation. This withdrawal, while seemingly preventive, deprives the individual of experiences of support and connection, crucial elements for recovery. Shame, a feeling often associated with mental health disorders, can intensify this tendency to withdraw. The person may feel that their reactions are a personal failing, not a symptom of a treatable condition. This internalization of blame and stigma creates an additional barrier to seeking help and rebuilding trust in themselves and their social environment. Another crucial layer that remains hidden is the change in self-image and beliefs about one's own body. Before the first attack, most people tend to trust in the stability and predictability of their bodily functions. After the experience, this trust is shaken. The body, once a reliable vehicle, becomes perceived as a potential traitor, capable of triggering feelings of panic at any moment. This dissociation between mind and body can be deeply disturbing as it undermines one's very sense of identity. The person may begin to question their sanity, their strength, and their ability to live a normal life. This weakening of self-image creates a vicious cycle. The more a person fears their body and its reactions, the more anxious they become, increasing the propensity for further episodes and cementing the perception of powerlessness. It's also worth exploring how a first panic attack can reconfigure one's relationship with the present, transforming it into a mere interlude between potential attacks. The ability to fully engage in the present moment, enjoying a meal, appreciating a conversation, concentrating on a task, can be compromised by persistent, anticipatory anxiety. Every moment of calm can be haunted by the doubt of how long that tranquility will last. This constant expectation of a future crisis prevents the full experience of the present, robbing everyday life of its joy and spontaneity. Instead of focusing on the here and now, the mind dwells on a hypothetical and dangerous future, creating a dissonance between the reality that is happening and the reality the person fears will happen. This fragmentation of temporal experience is one of the most insidious and least discussed aspects of this first experience. By interweaving the various layers of this singular experience, a more complete picture emerges of the profound reconfiguration that a first panic attack imposes. It is not merely an isolated event, but a watershed moment that, with its overwhelming intensity, forces a fundamental rethinking of the relationship between body, mind, and the perceived world itself. Latent insecurities, previously dormant, beneath the veil of everyday normality, surface with undeniable force, shaping the way the individual projects themselves in time and interacts with their surroundings. At this point, we see how the subtleties of experience can become the foundations of a new understanding of human vulnerability and the inherent search for security in a world where unpredictability proves to be a constant. At this crossroads of altered perceptions, apparent fragility becomes the source of a previously unexplored resilience. The way the mind deals with the inexplicable, the intrinsic struggle to re-establish a sense of control amidst internal chaos, and the consequent redefinition of the very boundaries of personal capacity are elements that converge at a crucial point. It is as if, after an internal earthquake, the landscape of consciousness reorganizes itself, revealing new emotional topographies that need to be carefully mapped and understood in order to truly move forward. The journey thus far has prepared us to consider the depth of this metamorphosis. Reflecting on this journey, it becomes clear that overcoming a first panic attack does not lie in the mere eradication of its symptoms, but rather in the assimilation and transformation of the experience itself. The way in which the individual repositions themselves in the face of their own inner workings, the redefinition of fear, and the rebuilding of confidence are the true foundations upon which a new stability can be built. We are, therefore, one step closer to consolidating this vision, to realizing how a deeper understanding of these converging elements paves the way for a more integrated and compassionate perspective on mental health and self-knowledge.